Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 900, we're back. I was ill last week, but I wanted to make sure we made this show because it was show 900, or it is show 900. 900 shows, we're not going to look back all 900 shows, we are going to talk about some of the tech that's been and gone in the time since we were doing this show. A lot of Microsoft stuff been and gone, but some still stuff stuck around and some of our favourites on there as well. Plus we've got to look forward to some new updates to Windows 11 and lots more. So let's get straight to Richard and Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And we're up to show 900.
How did we get here?
Yeah, show 900. Yeah, so it's a long way from when we started on the talking about Windows XP Media Center, my remote mouse. I bet you still get downloads for my remote mouse.
I do still get downloads of my remote mouse. It's amazing. Yeah. I'm thinking, anybody using Media Center still?
Yep, obviously there are. So we've outlived Media Center, we've outlived XP, Vista 8, 8.1, 10. And here's Richard. Good evening.
Hello there. Sorry I'm late. Teams put up a fairly major fight tonight, but I won in the end.
I thought it might.
Teams didn't want you to join show 900. That's what it is.
I refreshed the link 4 times, and there, the 4th time it worked.
Well, we're just started the recording, and we're saying we're up to show 900, which is that's quite a lot of podcasts.
That's quite an achievement, Ian. Congratulations.
That's 900 hours of editing. That's the achievement.
The question is, have the tools got easier over the we won't say how many years, but the many years?
Yes, the tools have definitely got easier. Despite your fighting with Teams, this is a lot easier than me fighting with trying to create virtual sound drivers to capture the Skype. I mean, we've been doing this on Teams for the last few years, haven't we? But we used to use Skype.
Yes.
I mean, when we first started using Skype, it was before Microsoft bought it.
Yeah. It's going back.
Yeah, before Skype had a recorder, and I was using Adobe Audition to capture the outputs.
So fairly soon you will have outlasted Skype. Not that Microsoft is going to kill it, of course. Definitely going to kill it.
No one talks about Skype anymore, do they? Just we've got
instant. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? Now, Microsoft once again had there's a common theme with these 900 shows. Microsoft were quite early out the gates with some of these technology. I know they bought Skype, but they were early with Skype. They had MSN Messenger before that. Yeah,
I mean, I still find it astonishing that during the lockdowns and things that they didn't make money hand over fist, and yet it appears that Zoom kind of stole a march on them very much.
Yeah, that was quite surprising, that really. And Zoom kind of were they independent? They're now owned by Cisco, is that right?
I think Cisco. I think I could be completely wrong.
Oh, that was WebEx, wasn't it? WebEx, Cisco.
Yeah, I think Zoom is still independent. I think.
Right.
Because Slack was bought by Salesforce. But I think Zoom is still independent. But again, I stand to be corrected there, I'm afraid. Or you could listen to the sound of a man looking things up on the internet.
But that's what it. So that's the technology. One of the technologies that enabled us to do this was Skype. I
mean, I think what may have happened with Skype is that Microsoft changed the underlying infrastructure and then changed the interface, and they removed sufficient functionality from it in that change that they I think alienated a lot of very vocal users. And so I think people were looking for alternatives just as an alternative became available. I think that's kind of what happened, really. And I'm not sure Skype is going to ever get back to where it was, which is it's a shame, because you say Microsoft did have everything there. It had all the tools. It was first out the gate, but almost squandered its early lead. But I guess one couldn't say that with the cloud, though, which is going great guns.
Yes, definitely. That's one thing where we started. There was no really cloud as such, no consumer cloud stuff. The first we saw of that was Windows Live Mesh.
Yes, as I mentioned, Mesh,
and SkyDrive. So Live Mesh became SkyDrive, which became OneDrive. In fact, I still, I was going through a machine. It was one of those netbooks that I was firing up, and I saw the SkyDrive folder.
I expect if you hunt around, if you hunt around the code, you'll still find SkyDrive references in there.
Yeah, and Windows Live Mesh was the concept of a cloud desktop. I'm surprised. I mean, OneDrive kind of does everything like that. I mean, your desktop can be synced through the cloud.
Yeah, I mean, Mesh did other things too. I mean, it was kind of an interesting concept. Again, I'm speaking about it in the past tense. Obviously, it still exists, just called different things now, isn't it? So it's but in terms of a distributed computing model, it was, I think, a very interesting concept. And obviously, the consumer bits of that were what became OneDrive and whatever else. And as you say, desktop or profile storage, which I mean, I use today. I think it's brilliant, actually. The whole OneDrive thing. As I jump from machine to machine, all my files, everything, just to use a phrase, it just works.
Yes, yeah, it does. And that was Ray Ozzie, was it? Introduced Live Mesh.
Oh, and there's a name. Again, another name to conjure with.
Yeah.
He was the chief technology architect after Bill Gates took down.
I still
of course,
maintain
developer of Lotus Notes as well.
I still maintain their best tech was the Media Center. That's a system that I've yet to really find a substitute for that works in any way as well as that worked at home. I mean, I've got various alternatives that I'm using, various open source things, various other bits and pieces, but nothing that's really just as seamless and works as well as Media Center did.
No, absolutely. And of course,
I'm just going back to inventing a new job title there, which I think is a brilliant job title.
What was that?
so Ray Ozzie was the chief technical officer and chief software architect. You called him the chief technical architect, which I think is a great thing.
I think that might give myself that title for. That's a good idea.
I would say
I've also posted a picture of young Ray Ozzie in chat, and because people have been talking about him today and saying, does he look like somebody?
Okay, let me. Now, can I share?
Wow, that's Ray Ozzie, is it? Goodness me, that's going back a bit. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe Mark Hamill, perhaps.
Well, what's been said is Elon Musk.
I suppose so.
I can kind of see it. I can see it.
Kind of see it, but I'm not sure if I was Ray, if I was Ray Ozzie, I'd want that particular comparison.
Hamill, I think he'd probably go for.
Although I'm sure he'd like Elon Musk bank balance, but I'm not sure he'd particularly like that the other comparison.
So he brought some great technology in, came from Lotus Notes, didn't he? And then I think, isn't it the OneDrive for Business is still somewhere called Mesh.exe or so? I remember seeing Mesh.exe not that long ago. So I still think there's something. Think of other consumer technology we've seen like Zune. Which I find Microsoft love marketing stuff that they let die years ago. They spent more money on marketing Zune in the last few weeks than they had while they were actually running the program. But
I was going to say, yes, I have watched Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the Zune features very heavily in it.
Yeah, if only they'd done that at the time.
Exactly, it's kind of a throwaway joke at the end of the second film, I think, isn't it? And then of course it goes big in this one, in the third film. Although having seen the third Guardians film, which I enjoyed actually, I thought it was very good. I would have to echo what a lot of reviews have said, that there's a bit of darkness in it, isn't there? Goodness me, I don't know if you've seen it. No,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Yeah,
I would suggest if you've got anyone who's a bit squeamish about animals, it's a bit dark in places.
Oh yeah, well my niece is notoriously difficult with animal stuff. I mean, she's 15 now, but I remember watching. Do you remember Paddington Bear?
Yeah.
She was watching that film quite happily, and then there's a scene where there's a parrot in the museum. I think it gets put in a bit of peril. Nothing happens, but it looks like it might do, and I could see her eyes going. And
she's not going to like this. Yeah. There's more than peril.
If there were scenes of humans being blown up and everything else, that's fine. You can do whatever you want with that. But anytime there's any animal in harm, then that's a no-go. So I think it's hard to avoid that.
Exactly. It's a little bit grim, I'd say. However, I would again say it's a superb film. It's very good. It's certainly one of the better Marvel films of recent months, or even years actually.
I'll probably catch that as soon as it comes on Disney Plus.
Matter of time.
Yeah.
Of course,
Actually,
Disney Plus,
a long matter of time, apparently. Yeah, this is actually one of the things that have been debated recently. Disney Plus is talking about actually not bringing the Marvel films quite so quickly.
really, it's interesting.
Cinema life. So yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, I would have thought they'd kind of the way it seems to have been going is they'll kind of it will be in the cinema for a few months, and then they'll make it by a buy to rent title, and then eventually it becomes free on the Plus. So I'd give it about 9 months, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, well, still the consumer terms that we can't mention. Windows Phone, been and gone.
Yeah. Surface Duo, is that going to ever come? Is that going to ever have a version 3, do you think?
It's so sad, isn't it? That they I've seen the Pixel Fold, isn't it? That really, that's what the Duo 3 could have been, or may have even looked like that.
It might still arrive. I mean, build is next week, so I'm kind of hoping we'll see. No,
no, don't get your hopes up.
I'm being hopeful.
I think they're done with phones again.
I mean, yes, I did hear mutterings that the team had been disbanded in the SD. I mean, obviously it's been a long time before. It's is it Android 14? I think we're still waiting for, and that's not going to come anytime soon, is it?
No, I mean, it's still 12. It's still 12 on theirs, so so we're not at 13 yet. So yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame how they with Windows Phone they had the best hardware. Oh, maybe not the best operating system, but not the app ecosystem, and they just couldn't make that gap up.
Oh, I thought the hardware was pretty good.
I think. I suppose I'm thinking like 1520, and I still.
Yeah, I mean the cameras were great on the higher end phones. I think it was good hardware. It was just I think it was the app ecosystem that killed them in the end, unfortunately, which is very sad because I think on the whole it was actually a good system, and it was. I don't know about you, Garry. I found it ridiculously easy to code for. I mean, really, it was very, very straightforward to code for it, and I was very disappointed when it disappeared and we were forced to use Xamarin pointing at iOS or Android, which is not quite the same.
I think that 1520 is still my favourite phone that I've ever had. I mean, the 950 was a good step up, but when the 1520 was new, that was such a brilliant phone. That in yellow, I had mine. I really did like that phone.
Whereas I think I had a 920 which had that real hewn from granite feel to it. We thought I could probably do a person some serious damage with this device. And yeah, it was great. It was really good, but I was not to be. I mean, it's interesting to see a lot of those themes appearing in other operating systems now. The concept of tiles and things, and and being described as a new invention. It's like, well, you know what? Pretty sure we saw that a few years back, but there we go.
Yeah, always on display. Capturing moment captures, all that came with Windows Phone.
Yeah, all goes round in circles, but there we go. Hey ho.
And when we started the show, we weren't even on Windows Phone. We were on Windows Mobile.
Windows CE. Yeah.
Yeah, I had my.
Were mobile or CE at the time?
Might have been mobile because I had my Trio. I definitely had the Trio. I had the HP one for a while as well.
With the weird sort of start menu. I always remember that very well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And of course, we've had the Microsoft Band at that time.
Yep. Yeah, the band was great. This is depressing, Ian. We're going to go through all the things that Microsoft have basically done for a while, given up on, and then everyone else has done much, has gone on and made it much bigger and better.
I've still got my Samsung Portable Media Center.
Yes, that was pre-Zoom.
And one of the first things, my first contribution to the show, I think, the review of that.
It was. Yeah, that was a nice, neat little device, and that had the Media Center UI on it, didn't it? But it was the Samsung one.
Yes, I mean it's interesting how they kind of they try to standardize around that Media Center style UI as time went by, and then after the disaster of Windows 8, the Windows 8 desktop rather, they very quickly backed away from it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in fact, of all the consumer things that Microsoft have launched in the time we've been doing this show, the Surface brand is the only one that's still around. I think apart from Windows, but that wasn't launched during the show lifetime. So yeah, I would say Surface, because I saw the first Surface device, which was just a big table.
Yeah.
At CES 2006, 2007.
I liked that first Surface. I thought that was a really clever idea.
Yeah.
The big table.
Yeah, it was a big table, and you put things have tags on the bottom, didn't they? And you put it on the table, and it read the tag, and then you could. I think it was designed for in casinos and mobile phone stores where you pick the model, put it on the table, and it had all the info around the table. It's still a brilliant technology.
It's. I mean, you did kind of feel as though you were in a science fiction film. It's like
Yeah,
a science fiction film. I'm in a Marvel film. It's fantastic. Put things down. Things happen. It's like Iron Man. And but I guess it was quite niche, and it's one thing to do. I think that demos well versus a thing that's going to actually make its way into people's homes.
Yeah.
Or offices.
That's right.
I mean, the Surface is the hub. I think that they did the big touchscreen thing. That I think was another great concept, which it did relatively well, but they kind of stalled with the version 2, and they never brought out the expert version, because it had real potential to kind of change the gubbins and things, so you could upgrade it and do more things to it, and they kind of again backed away from all of that, which I was very sad about. I mean, I'd heard mutterings that they were going to do something similar with the their high-end machine. Was that the Studio?
So the Surface Studio,
which obviously had a glorious screen, but a very underpowered PC beneath it. In fact, I think at one point didn't the Surface Studio even ship with a spinning disc?
It did, the first one, yeah.
Wow, you think right?
Yeah.
Spinning discs. I remember them.
But even now, that's still an absolutely glorious screen. Absolutely glorious screen. I'd have bought that screen by itself, and they never actually sold that screen by itself, which I think is a real shame, because it was a brilliant screen. That was.
Yeah, I've definitely had one of those as a monitor.
Yeah. Anyway, but never mind. At least we've got Windows 11. Yay.
Yes, we've got Windows 11. And actually, we've got an update come. I'm pretty sure the next few weeks we're going to get the Moment 3 update to Windows 11. May 2023 update.
I'm guessing that'll drop. That I guess will drop during build. Yeah,
probably. Patch Tuesday.
Timing seems about right.
Yeah. It's very close, isn't it? So you'd think that'd be a good time too. It would be a good thing to do in build. Although I mean, build it's been very muted this year. I mean, I know it's a bit more and more in person than previous years, but still, there doesn't seem to be the same buzz around it,
Yeah. I get where you are. I think there should be that much buzz around. We'll see.
I suppose a lot of it, like a lot of the development and a lot of the mind focus on the developer stuff is on the cloud stuff, isn't it, at the moment, and the AI and all that kind of thing. So that's.
Well, I do plan to watch the keynotes and do play the AI drinking game, where each time I say AI, I'll have a drink, and I'll just see how far I can get.
I just want to see a piece of AI which isn't a large language model. I think
yeah. So I think that means that the sort of the Windows development gets a little bit sort of pushed out, doesn't it, by all the headline stuff?
Yes, definitely. I mean, there is I think there's an update for the Windows subsystem for Linux, isn't there? That's just dropped today.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
That's a May update. Excuse me.
That gets lots of updates compared to the Surface Duo.
It does actually. Yes, yeah. They've upped the Linux kernel to 5.15.99.4. So it's an intriguing thing that the fact that it does keep being updated. Do you reckon they'll perhaps shift to Surface hardware to be a Windows-based phone instead that runs Android apps?
I just can't see it. It's too convoluted, isn't it?
It is. It's really complex compared to what they had. Very strange, but it's you say this does seem to be being updated, and I think it's a great tool, the Windows System for Android. We're not 100% sure who, apart from developers like me and Garry, it's really for, and that one app that you just want to run on Windows that you can't, you can't do through your phone. So
and then you've got Phone Link, where you can get your apps kind of on there anyway. So they've updated Phone Link, haven't they? If you've got iPhone, have you got that feature now?
It still doesn't work. for me. I mean, it was previewed a while ago, and I wasn't on the AB Pro program, so I didn't get it. But yes, this is a where you can get some sorts of messages. It's not everything. I don't think it does. Does it do groups at the moment, or is it just?
No, I don't think it does.
I think it's running a bit like Bluetooth. I think if you try and do text messages from your car or something, I think it's running a bit like that. So it's not the full-on iMessage experience, but it's certainly an improvement over nothing. But unfortunately, I haven't made it work yet. I did try today. Can't do it. Yeah. I'll try again and let you know next week if it works. Show 9901 iMessage comes to Windows at last. Have either of you made it work yet, or are you not iPhone users?
No. No, it's been working on Android for a long time.
Well, exactly. I mean, the Android integration works really, really well on the phone app, but the phone link app. But yeah, this is the first, I'd say, exciting thing that's come through about the iPhone, because obviously, if only there was an operating system used to have all messages in one single place. I mean, what would that have looked like? So. But it's one of the things that I do miss a lot, actually, because I've got my PC here, my Windows and ARM PC, my Mac, and I do keep going back to my Mac simply because it's a lot easier to have my messages appear on the screen.
And talking at that moment 3, there's not a huge amount of changes. It's not like a big 5 gig update. There's just a few bits and pieces like VPN icons and seconds in the clock and widget board's been updated to that 3-column view.
Yeah, it's but again, I mean, there's not really a lot for them to do, is there? Apart from sticking in more widgets and stuff. So maybe we'll see a bigger change when they come to do Windows 12 and try and do their app isolation again properly. Yeah,
maybe, and we've heard absolutely nothing, and I'm not really expecting even Bill to give it maybe introduce some new developer platforms for Windows, but certainly they're not going to announce a new OS at Build.
No,
they'll do one of those join us to talk about the future of Windows type events, won't they? I think that'll be what happens there.
Yeah, I suspect so. Yeah, Panos will come out being pumped about, I don't know, we're going to show milliseconds in the clock. Yay, aren't we?
Yeah. We didn't get a build last week either, did we? A Canary or a dev build?
No, I mean we got some. I think we got didn't we get a
beta
release preview? And
yes, release preview, and that's the moment 3 update that I was talking about. That was
but we've not had anything. I think the last Canary, that's a long time ago now. Actually, of course, I forget we didn't record last week, did we? So
no, I think we had one the week before.
Yeah, I think around May 4th. That was 25357 on the Canary, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And again, wasn't a huge amount in there. I mean, it's a bad build or it's going to be a boring build when the highlight is there's a new Facebook widget. You think, oh really? Hooray!
Yes. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, 25357. That was the only one that we had the other week. Yeah.
So it's very, very quiet on the Windows front. I think a lot of resources perhaps being devoted more towards the OpenAI stuff and Azure. I think Windows is just rumbling along, it seems like.
Yeah, just for Windows 12, all the UI coding is going down into Windows 12.
Windows, of course it is, Ian. Yes, Windows 12. I look forward to the Windows announcement. We've got a thing to share.
We did get. I don't know if we talked about this a few weeks ago. We did get an update to the Photos app. I don't know if you tried that. The one with the timeline scroll bars returned, and which I actually found quite useful. So I missed that in the current version, but that's back now. So you can scroll by the timeline. There's a spot fix for photos as well, which actually works quite well. And the slideshow features. I think that was in one of the previous builds in Windows 10, was it? I think. You can have little animations and music and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's only Canary and Dev, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, the Photos app I find pretty useful now, especially as you can tie in your iCloud as well. So it's quite handy. I set Wise Fox, she's an iPhone, and I set it up with the iCloud. So whenever she wants to get pictures from the phone, she was always messing about, emailing and trying to copy them and trying. Yeah, so phone, you can just use the Photos app now and get all the photos. So I think that's actually quite a good integration now.
Oh, brilliant.
So yeah, I like the Photos app. It's but now you can do the fixing on it as well. But the timeline scrolling, definitely like that.
Yeah, it's a useful improvement. It's good to see it happening. Although of course it's very much outside of the core of Windows.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm just deciding what to do about phones going forward, because I use my Duo whenever I go on holiday. I usually take the Note because it's waterproof. Excuse me. And so I'm away next week. So I've switched my SIMs over, but yeah, I don't really like this. I prefer the Duo over the Note, but the Note's waterproof, and I do find the Samsung apps better. But the battery is down to 17%, and I'm not really using it that much. So I think the battery is going in this Note 20 now.
Mm.
So I think I might actually end up taking the Duo with me because I don't want to run out of battery. So I don't know if I was going to get another phone, what I would get now. I'm not really interested in the Pixel Fold. It's too expensive for what it is.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it always comes down to camera now.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
to be honest, cameras haven't improved much over the last 3-4 editions of phones. I think. I mean, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I went to just a refurbished 21, and the camera on that is pretty much the same as the one on 23. There's a few tweaks, but it's there's very little happened in the world of phone cameras. They've got a bit more resolution, but you're right, though, Richard. I think that is the big factor, isn't it? And I mean, I can't really recommend anybody buying a new phone at the moment. There's nothing to make me want to buy a new phone, and
no, I mean, for me,
are just as good as.
I mean, for me, it would be the first phone where they managed to crack low light photography without it looking awful. Because even the adverts that say, "Oh, it's great light," they're never good in low light. I mean, it's I don't know much about photography, but I know it's not a particularly big aperture, so it's like it's always going to be low light is going to always be a challenge for phones. So I'll be intrigued to see what happens. And I've seen the likes of Huawei or Honor or what have you, and Samsung all going down the route of putting more processing on the phone to try and optimize the image. The problem is you can end up with some quite strange looking pictures in low light. So that for me will be the next innovation. But apart from that, it's just, I mean, I wouldn't buy a new phone now. I really wouldn't. I mean, I'd be looking at last generation or one before, really. I mean, it's the cameras are more than adequate for most purposes. And if you want low light, then you should probably invest in the proper camera.
Yeah. I think I think I'm just gonna keep probably the Duo for now until something.
Yeah, I mean, the Duo is a tragic device, I think, because I mean, when I used it, I really liked it. I thought it was a really good device, and I've been very sad to see Microsoft not really seem to support it as they should or as they could have done, and also because a lot of people have spent a lot of money on those devices, and it just seems to have been left to wither, which is like a real shame, because I think the hardware is great. I think with Duo 2, they kind of addressed almost every whinge that I had about it. The camera was much improved than Duo 2. And I prefer that folding effect. I don't like the folding screens because I worry they're going to break. Whereas the Duo 2, the hinge was very clear. There's the hinge, and you could see it was made of strong stuff. Whereas I do worry about these foldable screens, how long they're going to last for. I think it's still in the first 2 or 3 generations of those, so it needs a bit longer to sort itself out. But even then, I don't know. I just like the Surface Duo 2, which I haven't got.
Yeah, so I think I'll be putting the SIM back in the Duo 2 and taking that with me on holiday. There's only the Samsung Smart Things Plus that I like to put in my case, and that you need a Samsung phone for that. But I might just take the Samsung phone just to and share my Duo's connection. So because I do like to track where my case is. Not that I'm going anywhere, I'm going exotic, but I'm going to Florence. So
nice.
Somewhere I've always wanted to go. So
what, to Florida?
Not to Florida, no, to Florence. I've been to Florida.
Florence. I said Florida.
Yeah, no, Florence.
Firenze.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lovely
Yeah.
place there.
Florence is lovely.
Yes, we're quite looking forward to that. And there's only the two of us going as well.
Only two of you. Oh, can you imagine how much food you're going to eat? You're going to be you'll basically need to buy a bigger chair on the plane to come back in, because it's good food in Florence. Oh,
yeah, yes,
I'm very jealous here. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and only paying for two as well as they're paying for four. Yeah, so
which is another thing which happened in this 900 shows, isn't it?
Yes, I mean the kids were when we started this thing were like 2 or something like that. No,
Yeah.
so 21 now. Yes, they're. In fact, they were both looking at getting. They were 21 a couple of weeks ago. They were both looking at Surfaces. So James is looking at getting this Surface Go because he wants a tablet, and Jack wants a Surface Pro because he wants a PC. So we went to the Trafford Centre in Manchester. I think it was last week or something like that, when it was a bit rainy, and to have a look. And PC or Curry, the Curry's there is closed, which is a shame. So John Lewis was there, so they could, because I know what the Surface Pro's like. I've seen plenty of them, but they're buying them these out of their own money, so they want to, they want to actually get hands on with them. But there wasn't a great hands-on display. I mean, they did have a couple of Surfaces in at John Lewis, so they were quite good. But I always found the PC World in the Trafford Centre actually was particularly good for Surfaces, because for some reason, not all Curry's stores carry Surfaces, which seems a bit bizarre. There's a Middlebrook, which is near Bolton, which is where the Bolton Wanderers football ground is. There's a really big Curry's there, one of the big out of town retail type places, and they don't do Surface devices, which I always found was a bit weird. Anyway, so the one in Trafford Centre has closed, so that's another. So if you're trying to actually go and physically see a device, it's getting harder and harder, I think, nowadays. That's one thing that has changed in the 900 shows.
Yeah, because during the shows, Microsoft went through its phase of having bricks and mortar stores as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And then disappeared. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think if you're paying, you buy the Surface, you're paying £800, £900 for the Surface Pro, or even £400 for the Go. You want to have hands on, and there's a Samsung store in Trafford Centre. There's there's an Apple store, but there's no Microsoft store. But John Lewis, to be fair, is better than nothing. But yeah, it's a shame you haven't got really a lot of hands-on time with these devices.
Yes, and I think when you are dropping that much cash, you do want to have hands-on. I mean, as you know, I'm in the market for a new laptop, although that's now on hold because I've managed to deal with the one limitation I had with the iPad. And I got myself a device where I needed to be able to access external drives from the iPad, which I couldn't do. So I thought, I'll just have to buy a laptop, fine. And then I realized I could just get a dongle, plug it in, and sure enough, there is a dongle you can get in, which means your external drive pops up as a device in the iPad. It's I hadn't realized just how quite how advanced iPad OS was getting. But yes,
it's almost like a PC architecture.
It is. I mean, it's still annoying because you do miss the windowing thing. I think that's kind of just. I presume with an Apple, there's a arguments going on between the Mac OS division and the iPad OS division on who gets to have the Windows, the windowing desktop. But as you say, you do want to feel these things before you drop hundreds or thousands of pounds on them. And certainly with laptops and things all being really good these days. If you find out there, they are. I mean, I'm not going to sing at any vendor because the Surface range is good. Dell do some good XPSs, HPs, Asus. They're all really good, as are the Apple devices, if a bit expensive. So it's actually more coming down to what does it feel like in your hands? How are you feeling the key? How do you find the keyboard in use? Is the travel okay? How heavy is it? And I think it's almost more important than ever to actually have one to touch and feeling it in your hands as a consumer. I think as a business, obviously you get what you're given that the company has chosen for you. But as a consumer, I think it's really important to actually feel these things before you spend all this money, because the thing is they're still expensive. They're not cheap.
Yeah, and it just seems retail options are less and less. Everything's just online, isn't it?
It is, and it's a shame to see. I mean, you can go into an Apple store and they've got the whole range there, and you can touch and feel them, use and whatever. Whereas it is, I think, a real shame that these kick in the point where the only place you can really go now is, a few specialist shops or John Lewis to see your Surface devices, which is, I think, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. So They haven't purchased one yet, and I think had there been a Microsoft store, someone, a sales guy probably would have sold them one on the day. But that's the route that they decide to take.
Yeah.
So that is something that's has changed in 20 odd years. I did dig out a picture of them playing with the original Surface RTs that I got them for Christmas one year.
RT was a great machine.
Yeah, that did last them a long time, actually, those. In fact, Jack still uses his original Surface laptop, which we got him for when he was doing his exams at school, and he still uses. That's what he's using now. So he's actually managed to last his quite. James doesn't do quite as well with technology. He breaks things more more frequently. But yeah, it's. Now I'm just trying to think what else I've posted last week. Oh, I did do another retrospective music video. Well, that keyboard there behind me there, that's a Korg MS2000 from the year 2000, which I found my original receipt, actually. I paid 600 odd quid for that, which seems a lot of money now. And I'm surprised I paid for that. Paid that much in 2000, but I did. So it's like 23 years old now. So it seems to me like a relatively new device, but it's actually, I suppose, I don't know when does vintage kick in? What is it, 20 years?
We looked this up the other year, didn't we?
Yeah.
I'll break up again.
Yeah, I would say it's vintage, but 20, yeah. So it's virtual analogs. So it's got lots of knobs on it. So it's not an actual analog synth. It emulates the analog synth. At a time when in 2000, when there weren't many synths doing that, so everything was sort of sample based. So it give you this new old sound again. And now, of course, you can get real analog synths like I've got here, and you can get VSTs and get it all in the box. But it was not as common then. So it's a bit of a retro. When it came out, it was kind of a throwback machine anyway, and now it is actually a retro machine. But believe it or not, Korg still. That unit they manufactured into something called the Microkorg, which was a smaller version of that. They took a few bits and pieces away and took some of the controls off. And believe it, they're still selling that. That came out 21 years ago, and it's still sale now. And they've just brought a new crystal cased version of it or something like that. So yeah, it's amazing actually how some technology sticks around. So you can go and buy a brand new Microkorg from your music retailer or whatever, and it's the same engine that's in that 21 years and still going strong for I think about 400 quid. But yeah, still there, you can still go and buy those. So anyway, I did do a video about that,
and it is greater than 20 years for vintage. So I guess the show's almost vintage now.
Yes. Yeah, funny. Yeah, when did I'm trying to think exactly. Yeah, it was 2006, wasn't it?
Yes, we've got a few years ago, but not many.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I suppose if you knock off what we were talking 18 years or something like that from when we started the show, you're into the 80s, aren't you? The 90s, the mid 90s. So yeah, I always think it's funny when you look back at it like that. It's like when you're listening to when you're listening to 80s. Well, my mum and dad would listen to the Beatles when I was a teenager in the 80s. That was only 20 years old, not even even that's the but to me 20 years of current music is nothing, is it?
Well, not at all. I had a funny thing happen to me last week. There was do you remember the band Sleeper from the 90s?
Yeah.
Well, there was they did a pop-up gig in Brighton where I live. Just it was posted on socials about 24 hours notice saying we're going to be playing in this pub at this time. Come along, it's free. And so I went along and thought, that's great, a bit of nostalgia. And I thought, wait a minute, the song they're playing, that came out about 27 years ago. And in 27 years' time, I'll be nearly 80. Oh, but that was quite depressing then.
And 27 years prior to that year, you were into the 60s, were you then? Yeah, you would have been, wouldn't you? And that seemed a lifetime ago. I must be. It's an age thing, isn't it? But especially with music, it just seems like what we're listening to. If I'm listening to something from some classic 80s stuff that's 40 years old, 40 years ago from the 80s, you're into the 1940s, aren't you?
Yeah,
And all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
what's that saw that the other day, that we're now further away from 1980 than 1980 was away from the Second World War.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, it's what's interesting is watching some of these TV shows. My youngest tends to binge on Netflix shows, and she's watching one show that it ran for like 10 seasons and finished in 2020, and it's been fascinating for me as a geek to watch it and see the devices in the background change over seasons. So it's gone from, like, there were almost no mobile phones, and suddenly and then mobile phones everywhere, and then camera phones everywhere, and smartphones everywhere. Yeah, they've kind of, and in the last episode I've seen over a shoulder, they'd begun using Skype basically on phones, and I thought, crikey! And it's just interesting to see that evolution. Of course, it is a challenge, I think, these days for filmmakers when they're doing films to work out, well, modern tech means that all this stuff wouldn't really make any sense anymore because you got a phone. How can you be lost? You've got a phone. So,
yeah, I think someone, I think every time I mention this, somebody points out that, the Seinfeld episodes ruined by modern technology. Like half the episodes wouldn't exist because that was the catch, and that they didn't communicate, or they couldn't communicate with each other. And
yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's I try and explain to again to my daughters and say, well, there was a day we had to, you had to be somewhere at a certain time and you had to be there because you had no other way of knowing if you weren't there. And if you on the call, you'd phone someone's landline from a phone box with coins, and this look of incomprehension, sort of, how did you survive?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, if you had a night out and you said, right, we'll all meet at 8 o'clock at the pub, whatever. And if you were late or whatever, they were gone. Or you
and if you had a night out, you had to carry enough money to have a night out.
Yeah.
You had to go home.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Once you'd spent that $5.
Exactly. In this case of, you had to find a taxi and things. So there's this Uber malarkey. No.
Yes.
The only thing that got to delivered was pizzas. And
yeah, we take it for
granted. In your day, Gary, did they have pizzas? No, we had hardtack and gruel, and we were grateful.
Yeah,
I always remember my grandmother saying, "Oh, we'll go to the Scottish restaurant, the new Scottish restaurant, McDonald's."
Yes, and that's and now everything's just ordered on your phone, and you just sit here and wait, and 20 minutes later, some guy brings it to your door. Yeah, it's amazing how the technology, we just take it for granted and integrate it into our lives in that short period of time. And when we started the show, there weren't smartphones as such. No. I think the first thing we probably had a PDA. Maybe I still had my Windows CE. In fact, I would have done Pocket PC. We talked Pocket PCs on the early shows.
I mean, I think I was using a compact iPad at the time with the full-on GPRS sleeve that it came with. You could just slide it into this massive sleeve, and then, hey, I can use and I would use it to access remote desktop out and about, because I could run remote or other. It wasn't called remote desktop. Then was it? It had a different word. But anyway, I could use that tech on the compact iPad via GPRS, which is a marvelous, not even 3 EG speed.
Yeah, I had for my compact iPad a standalone GPS unit that connected via Bluetooth, so you could stick it on your dash, and then you could use the iPad as it had TomTom navigation software on it.
Right,
yeah. So it came with the little dongle and the TomTom software. So yes,
happy days.
Yeah, exactly. The iPads were great because they had those like interchange jackets, didn't they, with interchangeable functions. I'm trying to remember what I had on mine. I must have had the modem one. I had another one. It was a battery, maybe an extended battery, but you could slot them in, couldn't you, into it? I use my iPad a lot. In fact, that's the first podcast that I used to listen to. I listened to on my own podcast capture app that I wrote for the iPad, which it written in. What was the developer? Was it Visual Basic CE? Would it have been?
You could. I mean, there was a very good Visual Basic IDE for it, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I used. Yeah.
I mean, it was quite limited in obviously, as soon as you want to use anything third party, nothing worked. But if you were, which kind of was almost one of its big failings, and it was very easy to produce that demoware apps on it. But then when you actually had to try and make them work in the real world, then everything went wrong quite quickly, as I recall. But I did like the compact iPad hardware because it was silvery, wasn't it? It was like a silver.
I think it's there somewhere. It's around somewhere. Yeah, it was that silvery. Yeah, with the jacket slots that you could put in around
and
it.
Of course, it was up against the Palm, which sadly no more.
Yes, and I had a Palm as well, but that was before I got to do the Palm. By the time we did this show,
was Apple's Newton still around then? I can't remember if that had gone before the show began.
I think that had gone because I got my Newton in '94.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we started, I was using the iPad. I wrote my own little media player, podcast catcher app. No Spotify streaming in those days because there was obviously no data on it as well. In fact, I do remember you could tether it almost and get data, but using the infrared port on the iPad with the infrared port on your Nokia phone.
Yeah.
So you used to get the iPad like that, and you get the Nokia phone like that, and you push them together, and you could use the Nokia as a modem by infrared. How slow would that have been?
That would have been painful.
Yes, I do, but I used to get my email on it. But that's all you needed to do was sync your email because they worked on offline syncing effectively, didn't they? So you used to put it in your cradle on your desk, and then you take it with you, and that's how you got all your email and your calendar and everything. I used it for my calendar all the time. I'm gonna have to dig that out actually. My compact iPad. I've still got the other one, the square, the Casio one. I had that before the iPad. I can't remember what that was called. But that was a Windows Pocket.
Yeah,
palm size PC.
Palm size PC. Yeah, one of the first things to play audio in a handheld device.
Yes, and it was called a Palm size PC because Palm sued Microsoft, didn't they, for calling them Palm PCs?
Yeah.
That's the good old days. I'm gonna have to dig some of those devices out actually now. They that had a little SD card slot, wasn't it? Well, they weren't called SD card. What were those big multi-pin cards that you could get for them? You could get a modem. You could get
PCMI.
Not the big tall one, the half size ones, but with the second gen of that maybe. Compact flash.
PCMCIA cards.
They were the first ones.
Flash, yeah.
Compact flash, I'm thinking.
I mean, the PCMI. They obviously gave you additional abilities like networking and modem, whereas a compact flash was more just storage.
Yeah, I had a compact flash for my Cassiopeia, I think it was called, wasn't it? The Cassiopeia, yeah. Windows PE. Fantastic.
Well, it's a bit of a nostalgia fest tonight, isn't it?
It certainly is, yeah. I
suppose 900.
Show 900. It's bound to beat. But we have got things to look forward to. We've got this new release of Windows 11. I'm sure we've got new OS build coming sooner or later. I've still got some more retro music gear to do anyway. I quite enjoyed doing these because it's actually quite a good opportunity. Unlike say PC tech, which if you pull a 10-year or 20-year-old piece of PC tech, there's not really that much you can do with it. It's kind of had its day, but if the music tech, if it still physically works, then it's still valid, and you can make good stuff out of it. So I quite enjoyed doing it because it say that one, it sits behind me on the shelf there, but I'm always playing with the new shiny one, and that sits there and wants attention. But doing these videos have meant that I've actually I've learnt them again, if you know what I mean. Got refreshed my mind on them and enjoyed using them, and think actually, I should use this a bit more. And instead of just trying to get the next thing, I should maybe spend more time with things that I've got here, which is probably a good life lesson in general. But that's what I found from doing these videos is that I should spend more time. So I've got a drum machine up there from 1988 that is almost incomprehensibly complicated. So that is my next challenge. I've had it 10 years. I got it about 10 years, and I've still not really worked out how to properly use it. I don't know what the Yamaha engineers were on in the late 80s, but they made that as complicated as they could without there's no simplicity. And of course, as soon as the computer stuff comes along, it's miles simpler. You've got big screens and everything, but that is all job batch numbers and things like that. So I'm going to have to work out how to use it before I can do the video, but it means I actually get to spend some time with the stuff that I already own rather than try and buy new stuff, which I think is probably a good idea.
That sounds very wise.
Yes, I think it is. Before I sell it all and then buy a lot more stuff. But no, I'm not selling anything now. I'm making sure I spend time with the stuff that I've got. Right, well, that has been a fun look back at show 900. Just before we finish, Richard, how's the car doing?
It's really complicated, but it's okay. I have to say, at the moment, the problem is in the driving seat, not in the car. So, no, it's going well. Yeah, electric car ownership is, I have to say, I'm annoyed with myself for not doing it sooner, if I'm honest, because it's ridiculously cheap to run. I've got my first 2 months now of usage, and I mean it's cost about £12 in power so far. Again, hasten to add, I charge at home. But yeah, and Gary, on your suggestion, I did get a Kia charge card, and that's working well too. When I have to charge, I'll charge it outside. But most journeys, I don't need to. Its next big trip is going to be to Wales, where it will need to be charged up somewhere en route and somewhere on the way back, probably. And that will be a case of, again, finding an available fast charger, because Type 2 is too slow.
Indeed. It's not rapid.
No.
But and we actually consider the terminology is actually the Type 2 chargers are fast chargers.
Sorry, okay, rapid chargers. I apologise. The rapid DC chargers is what I want them to.
I know it's confusing technology, but it's because when chargers first came out, they weren't rapid chargers as such. They weren't DC chargers. They were only AC chargers. And,
well, next door, I mean, my next door neighbour has also now bought an EV as well, and he charges his from the household supply a 3-pin socket. I would say that's going to take forever, that is, but you know, he's happy enough.
Oh, £3 at once overnight. It's not too bad. I mean, it depends on the size of the battery, of course, and how much mileage you do. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, as I say, I mean, for mine, the big trip is really to West London and back, which is about a 150, 180 mile round trip, and it's the car will do that in a single charge quite happily, and then only needs really a few hours to charge up at home. And again, it runs. The charging runs also between 11:30 and I think 5 in the morning, when it's a very cheap rate. And I've been doing the maths, and it's just costing nothing to run. It's astonishing, actually. It's very surprising how cheap it is to run.
Which should be surprising. I've been telling you for years.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. And I've not been believing you. And now, Gary, I'm converted. I believe in EVs. It's great as long as you have off-street parking or somewhere where you can charge thing. I think I've got a friend who's in the process. I think they've got a Polestar due to arrive next week, but they live in a very nice part of London. But they park their car on the street, and you think, well, you're going to have to find somewhere to charge it then, because it's going to be an issue for you. And just because mine costs 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour, yours probably won't from Tesco, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh well, it's good to get on.
But yeah, it's going well. As I say, it is. I would say the one downside is it's ferociously complicated in terms of the gizmos and things the car can do, which are, I've got my old Golf Mark 1, which is great. You turn it on, key starts, and it drives off. This thing, you've got to read the manual about how it all works. There's a lot of stuff to understand, particularly around the stopping you doing stupid things. It really fights you. So yes, well, I'm getting there. Although there is one anniversary that we haven't touched on. Being a massive space nerd, I should just point out it is 50 years last weekend of the launch of Skylab, the last ever Saturn V.
Wow!
So that was 50 years.
50 years. Wow!
50 years since the last Saturn V launched, and up went Skylab and almost went disastrously wrong in its first few minutes of flight. But that's a different story.
And that felt like the future.
Yeah, and you know what? It's a thing that you look at it and think, I can't believe if only they'd finished the space shuttle a bit earlier, they could have saved it. Because while the space station has, I think, got more volume inside, the International Space Station, it's not as vast as Skylab was. I mean, they were able to test out the jetpacks and things inside it, because it was just so huge inside. It was a I think it was a Saturn V third stage that they converted it into a workshop, and it was just the volume inside was enormous. But yeah, it did almost end in disaster, which again, a great example of engineers fixing things in a hurry, as it lost one of the solar arrays, and its heat shield, micrometeoroid shield, fell off too. So during launch, they had to fix that very, very, very quickly, because obviously it was overheating. So up it went. And yeah, it's a great story, Skylar. I would recommend anyone who's interested look up the story of Skylar. I think NASA's doing a few things, but it's amazing to see what the engineers were able to do back then with what was basically quite old-fashioned hardware. Even then, it wasn't cutting edge anymore.
Excellent.
So, while we're on sort of 8 years difference, is it? When I love this stat I heard the other day. It's now as long since the first walk on the moon than it was from the first walk on the moon to the First World War.
Yeah, I can believe that. That's
Stop aging us, Garry.
Yeah, that's true. It's when you start sort of think how long ago things were. But there's whole internet pages which make you feel very, very old about how long ago things were now compared to, well, this is now closer to World War II than it is to now. So, oh, stop it. I think for me, it was being a space nerd. It was when someone pointed out that the film Apollo 13 was actually now closer to the actual mission than it is to today.
Oh.
And that really upset me.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Well, Garry, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Garry WMA and Garry WMA at mass.to. Not that there's much traffic on there these days.
I'm still on Twitter. I actually have got a new Instagram page with just some of the music tech stuff, so you can find that. It's on the website on thegislifestyle.com. You see a link to that. Right. I don't think we'll be recording next week. I'm away for the week, so I'm
also away.
Oh, well, there you go. So we're definitely not recording next week. But I shall be. I'll send you my thoughts for you all from Florence, and we'll be back the week after when I'll be in full Renaissance man mode.
Excellent.
Show 901.
Yeah, 901. Right. See you next week.
Cheerio.